Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DMV Business Show. I'm your host, Otto Sevilla, and today we have a very special guest who I work with personally, Burak Temel. Burak is the owner of several businesses, not just one. He's the owner of Urban Boxing, Saint Construction, and Med Depot. Welcome to the show, Burak. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So as I mentioned offline, I like the people to get to know you a little better. Are you originally from the DMV area?
Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up here, went to elementary, middle school, and high school here in the DMV, and I never left, actually. I went to American University, which is in DC, so local boy.
So you're homegrown. In what area? Northern Virginia or DC or Maryland?
Uh, Arlington, Virginia.
Okay. All right. So Arlington. Okay. So grew up your whole time in Arlington. You said high school and even went to American University in DC for college, right?
Correct.
So growing up in Arlington, what did you like? What were you into back then as a kid?
Well, I did a lot of sports, all throughout my I guess, schooling years, and I did, wrestling all my life pretty much. Started boxing when I was in high school as well. And then that's how we initially got started on, eventually on urban boxing. And then one thing led to another, and here we are in construction business now.
So for wrestling, did you start wrestling in what, high school or even before high school?
I started when I was 8.
Ah,
Um,
young.
yeah, fairly young. So all the way out, and then including, throughout college. And, we did, I just wrestled all my, as I say, educational years.
Wrestling is a great sport. I'm curious, at that young an age, was it more influenced by parents? I don't know, dad or mom, or was it you that had an interest at 8 years old?
Yeah, so pretty much my dad was a boxer, and he never wanted me to box, and they gave me to wrestling instead. And that's how I got started. And I'm also Turkish, so it's a big cultural thing too. And the Turkish people, they wrestle.
Okay.
So
Are you fluent in Turkish?
I am fluent. I read and write, and then pretty much, yeah, got bilingual.
Okay. So growing up in Arlington at home, it was mostly, I assume, Turkish being spoken in the house, right?
Well, yeah. So just so that I don't forget Turkish, and still am capable of writing and reading, I wasn't allowed to speak English at the house. So that just kind of allowed me to just maintain both.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I was like that growing up too, obviously with Spanish. But nowadays, having little ones myself, I try to implement that, but it's hard because then they want to speak back to you in English.
Right. That's true. So, well, I have a year and a half year old daughter, and so we're mom is going to speak to her in English. I'm going to be speaking to her in Turkish. So hopefully she picks up both.
I hope so. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
The reason I was going into wrestling because it's interesting. My oldest son, I put him in jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, pre-COVID. And when we started him in jiu-jitsu, he was maybe 7, 8, around there,
Hmm.
similar to the age when you started wrestling. But Brock, there were some kids there that were coming to Brazilian jiu-jitsu who were doing wrestling or came from wrestling, and you could just see the difference just when they go on the mats. It was
Right.
crazy. It was just wow. I was like, so
Yeah.
if you do a combination, it's just explosive. It's very interesting, wrestling.
Well, wrestling is a very good base for a lot of the sports. Boxing, kickboxing, soccer, football. Because you're using you got a lot of footwork that can be incorporated into other sports, right? You're aware of your full body, and as you're moving, I mean, obviously, needless to say, jiu-jitsu is also grappling, so it goes in hand in hand. But a lot of the sports that people may not think wrestling is any kind of, there's no any relation in between. It is in fact very similar. You can apply what you learn in wrestling and the movements into pretty much any sport. I I say this to a lot of parents that actually bring their kids to our gyms as well. Um, wrestling is one sport that I would recommend to anyone. If they're any kind of, in any kind of sports, wrestling is a great base.
Yeah, I mean, it teaches you a lot of things. And what you mentioned, your dad was a boxer, but he didn't want you to go into boxing, so that's why he exposed you to wrestling.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. At that age though, I mean, I don't think I would, let my kid, box either. 8 is a bit too young, in my opinion. I would probably start at 12-ish, 12, 13 is probably a good age where they can learn and retain, and they can, you can teach them a lot of the things in regards to defense, because before that, you're just kind of exchanging blows, and it may not be good for development. I'm not quite sure what the stats on that might be, but my gut instinct would be to start him at around 12.
Okay. Did you start with boxing around that same age?
No, I started in high
High
school.
school. Okay.
I was 14 or 15 when I
Okay.
started boxing.
Now you mentioned with wrestling, y'all, did you also do wrestling in AU?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
So you
Yeah.
competed. That's great. Did you ever think about possibly Olympics, or what were your? No.
No, I
Okay.
wasn't. I wasn't that good. No, no, no. I didn't have any Olympic aspirations. To be, truth be told, by the time high school ended, I was kind of over it. Kind of. I was pretty much done with it. After that, it just felt like a job, and I just didn't want to do it. And it's just kind of like it was just I didn't enjoy it as much as I did, in prior years. So I think I've had my run um, with that, and that was it.
Yeah.
I wrestle every once in a while now, but it's mainly when I want to work out, I do boxing.
Okay. I see. So in AU, what did you major in there?
International business.
Okay. So back then in college, were you always thinking of business?
Yeah, it's always been business for me. Um, what I had initially set out to do was to sort of create something um, in the international realm between countries trading or opening different. I looked into some trademark law and application between different countries, and I was going to do that for a while. But um, you know, at the end of it all, though, I ended up sort of creating a business that was international. We have Med Depot Inc. and Med Depot basically um, imports and exports medical goods, and particularly in Turkey, we're doing isolation gowns and so we got in this business as far as when we had started was was I think mid 2019, prior to pandemic. But when the pandemic hit, obviously we shifted. We were just doing plastic goods, syringes and catheters and pieces of whatever they may need to a hospital, sterile products. But then once the pandemic hit, we we started doing gowns, coveralls, masks. All the production would be done in Turkey, and then you know uh, import here into the country. And that's how Med Depot got started. So that was initially what I had set out to do. But then first boxing, then same construction, then finally Med Depot.
Met Depot is the most recent business, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So prior to Met Depot, you said the first one was Urban Boxing. Was that started during college or right after college, or how did that happen?
That was 2015. We had our
Okay.
first location open in DC, West End, sort of close to the GW campus. Um, Actually, a couple of blocks away from the Metro. And then that was the first location. Then we uh, expanded out to Bethesda, and then we've got an Arlington location, and soon we'll have a Navy Yard by the end of this year, hopefully.
So 4 locations.
currently 3, but it will be 4.
Yeah, the
probably.
4th with the Navy Yard. Okay. And that was, you said, Brock, in 2015, the first one was opened, right?
That's right.
Before then, were you doing other businesses, or what happened after AU, after graduation?
Well, I started. I played poker for a living.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah. I played poker for a number of years. That's what I did for a living, and then I was still competing as well. I was fighting, and then I got injured. Went through a shoulder surgery, and then while I was recovering, um, I started training people here and there, and then the gym that I was in shut down abruptly and without actually letting anybody know. They had known that they were going to close, but they didn't let any of the members know. So one day we show up at the gym and the gym is closed. And so that day I take a piece of paper and I put it on the desk. When the manager finally did come and then let us in, we had seen that the computers were gone, and anything that kind of meant anything to the owners were taken out overnight. So I put a piece of paper down and I said, leave your name, number, and email. I'm going to open this place back up again, and I'd like for you to come back. So a month and a half after that, we opened Urban Boxing, which used to be a UFC gym that shut down. So
oh, so it was the same place then. Instead of UFC, it now became Urban Boxing.
it was the same place, although we did change a lot of the interior layout. Yes, where it was a gym. It was a UFC gym that had shut down. And then we went and negotiated with the landlord and started Urban Boxing. Obviously, one of the biggest questions for them was, well, one just shut down. Why would we lease the place out to another gym again? But I was able to put together a detailed plan where we listed what we were going to do differently and how we believed that it was going to be better. And sure enough, they gave us the equipment on a discount. We were able to execute what we said we would execute on the business plan. And our first year, actually, we were selected best gym in DC by Washingtonian Magazine.
That's amazing. How'd you do that?
Well, simple things. What we looked at what other gyms do that are not working for them, and we don't do them, right? It's just simple stuff. Keep it clean, keep variety in your classes. The integrity of the classes should be there. Taught by people that know what they're doing rather than just people who claim they know the sport. And then don't tie people into long contracts. People don't like to commit to the unknown, right? So we have month-to-month contracts. There are no hassle or any kind of a penalty for canceling. Just make it easy for people. If they want to come, they'll pay. If they don't want to come, they should be able to cancel it just as easily as joining up. So that's what we did, and that has that seems to be working, and we're expanding. So things are going well.
That's great.
We're looking to franchise. We're ready to franchise, but we want to get a few more of the corporate locations open before we start franchising it out of the city or the DMV area, I should say.
And I'm sure already you probably have a good amount of demand for franchise opportunities, right?
Yeah, we haven't really advertised, but just people who know Urban Boxing, they want, they're on board with it, even today. But we have a very low franchise fee. We set everything up, and for the franchise owner. And and that's one of the big draws, is that our system is designed towards making them successful rather than just selling a franchise. We're very much involved in all the franchises, or we will be when we do open them. And so we, more so than a lot of the other franchises that we see, So we want things to be done right. It's a brand that we've created over the last 6 years that we don't want tarnished, and so it's very hands-on, which ultimately helps the franchise owner because they can get to the corporate, at their disposal. We're always there to help them, and that's sort of what, the path that we want to follow.
Sure. I've never been into myself personally to a UFC gym, but I'm sure it's much different. I know they had weights. I don't know. Do they even have an octagon there or no?
Some have cages, some,
Okay.
depending on the size of some don't. Some
Sure.
have, weightlifting equipment, your gym equipment, and, others have less. But yeah, they try to uniform it, but it's just, I don't think there's a set square footage of a store, or wasn't back then. I don't know what they do now, but so it was kind of all over the place. Um, and in this area, we've seen that a lot of them have closed. I can't speak to the reason why, but it could be a branding thing because when they bought LA Boxing from their owners, UFC was kind of like a tough guys sport, and so they didn't really get a lot of people that weren't looking to fight. But I guess they've shifted their marketing strategy a little bit where they're actually, sort of serving to those who are looking to just learn. And that's really what it is. I mean, just because you train MMA, that doesn't mean you need to compete. It's just, most people do it to get in shape. So I guess that's the message that that we give out. What we say is, there's a very fine line between competing and doing it for sort of getting in shape. If you go one way or the other too much, you're going to lose the other side, right? So if I have fighters who are looking to come in and train, and I'm only doing punching in the air and that kind of an aerobics class, I'm going to lose that. But also for our members who are looking to learn this as a means of self-defense and at the same time get in shape, you're getting trained by Olympians and professional fighters, and all of our coaches are people who have experience in this. So it's not just Billy Blanks, punch in the air, X, Y, and Z. You're actually learning. If push comes to shove and you have to defend yourself, you are very well capable of doing so. At the same time, it's boxing. Boxing never gets old. You're always engaged. You're always learning, and that's why I believe our retention level is so high, is because we keep giving people information. We keep, and more people learn, more they get engaged, and they see results. When people can see results, it's your number one selling point at that point.
With urban boxing, is it mostly group classes or also individual one-on-one sessions?
We do both.
Okay.
So for those individuals who just want to come in and do it in a class setting, great. And for those who want to take it to the next level and they want to, learn proper technique, we have starter packs at 3 sessions, and then we do 5, and we do all the way up to 10. And even those who are just into more personal training than doing classes, they don't necessarily go and get more advanced. It's just that we build a personalized program for those who are looking to do personal training, because not everyone's the same, not everyone's body type is the same, not everyone's goals are the same, and etc. There are so many things that go into it, and so obviously personal trainings are great, but not always what everyone needs.
Sure. Now, with that first location, Brock, I'm sure starting off, you were wearing many hats. You were, besides the owner, I don't know if you were the coach, the trainer, the janitor. How was that initial first year, the first couple of years with that first one?
Yeah. So when we first opened, I was the front desk, a coach. Well, we had about 5 coaches at the time, but I was doing majority of the classes, and I was everything, right? I would open the gym at 6 a.m. and close it at 9 p.m. 7 straight months I did that.
Wow.
Um, with no days off. And finally, I reached out to a friend of mine who was a GM at the location that had closed, and I said, he was in Ocean City at the time. I said, "What are you up to these days?" He says, I've been here for pretty much since we closed down. And I said, "All right, well, vacation is over. I'm coming to pick you up." I left at 5 a.m. that morning. I went and picked him up and brought him to work the same day, and he's been with us ever since.
Oh, that's great to hear. Okay. So then he took over the day-to-day, everything you were doing before.
Well, he was a GM, and after that, we started. More members we got, and we built our list. We hired more coaches. Right now, we have 35 coaches on the roster. Offer over 120 classes a week per location. So we have our reception crew to the coaches to sales manager to general manager, regional manager. Everything else is in place now. So that was just the initial starting point where we had to do everything ourselves.
Yeah. So that person right now does he oversee all 3 open locations, or is he focused on one?
He's a GM at one of the locations.
Okay.
So yeah, so he didn't want to really take that on, and that was just his preference.
Sure. How soon after the first one was open were you looking to open that second one?
I think it was about a year and a half later we opened the second location.
Oh, that's pretty quick. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Yeah,
you said,
we
and you,
scaled up
mhm.
fast. We had a lot of good good response and everything. So
And when after this, Brock, was Saint Construction established?
well, Sync Construction was established only 2 years ago, 2019.
Okay.
I've always had interest in just building things and doing things with my hands, and I was always fixing something, relatives or my house, and working on different things. And I finally figured, why not just do this for a living, and I knew a lot of people in the industry as well, where we could get our crews, which is essentially what the most important piece of the puzzle is. If you own a construction business, is your crew. You want people to know what they're doing so they can keep the clients happy, and therefore you're happy, right? So it's like a never-ending circle. So we started with a few. We've got a couple of big jobs, and from then on, just as with everything, you have your trade side of it and your business side of it. I knew the business side, so that was an issue, and I was familiar with the obviously field section as well, but not as good as I am now. Obviously, experience, it means a world of difference when it comes to construction or anything in that sense. So, we just again grew it from just 1 or 2 crews to now we have 12, and we do everything from remodelings to renovations to roofs and siding, interior, exterior, whatever it is. So,
Wow.
we're a general contracting company.
Yeah. Is most of the work there for Saint Construction, is it mostly on the residential side, homes, or is it also, I'm sure you guys do your own build outs when it comes to the gym, right?
Right. That's we do that. We have done commercial projects as well. Um, we've built doggy daycares. We've done a retail store. Um, we've done commercial roofs. We've done those. But yeah. So would I say I would say about 85% is residential. Yes. So we do focus on residential more.
Okay. I know earlier you mentioned how you've always been interested. I mean, even from what you studied at AU, the whole international trade and business, and then that sort of helped with Med Depot. How did Med
Mhm.
Depot come about? Did you think about something missing in the marketplace and you're like, oh, how about this? Or what happened there?
Uh, Med Depot, because my dad we manufacture plastic goods. Plastic injection molding is what he does. So anything from you know um, syringes, right, to catheters, or anything plastic we can put together and produce, manufacture. So when we're the manufacturers, um, we're able to, obviously, you can get it sterilized and do all this other stuff. We are able to keep the cost fairly low because we don't have to buy and sell. We're not the middlemen. We're the manufacturer. So it gave us a good opportunity to expand and import and export with different countries. We worked with Europe a lot. We've had production for medical facilities as well as schools. We did, anything from rulers to any plastic material you can think of that they use. We've worked with Coca-Cola of Turkey and done their Dasani water bottles. So we were in that. So we're in the medical sector. And then as I was exploring, mid 19, getting some clients here and there and working with, making shoe covers for doctors' offices and things like that, the pandemic hit. And it hit us out of nowhere, where a lot of the US manufacturers were kind of caught off guard, which is where we stepped in. We got in the government contracting. We supplied to different states. We did Washington, D.C., Ohio, Vermont, North Carolina. And then we worked with indirectly as a sub to a prime with the Pentagon and the VA hospitals. We've done those. So it kind of just kind of boosted us up from just being just a local shop to doing multi-state federal bids. And because of our capacity and capabilities from Turkey, we were able to handle them and deliver everything as promised, and haven't defaulted on a contract yet. And hopefully it won't ever happen.
When the originally manufacturing of plastic, was that done here in the U.S. or in Turkey?
That's in Turkey. So
Okay.
my family lives in Turkey. They're there. So he owns a fairly large company there. So we manufacture in Turkey and ship it over here.
Sure. Now, establishing these relationships, because it sounds like for Med Depot is mostly a lot of business to business, right?
Yes, that is correct.
How do you go about doing that? Were these already existing relationships, or was it any type of marketing and sales? How was that?
Well, I actually started reaching out. So I have, I went on a website, federal. This is basically, public information, and I can get a list of companies that bid on these federal contracts. And most American companies aren't manufacturers. They just buy from China and resell to the government. I mean, not necessarily China, but anywhere. We have very few amount of companies that actually make it here and then be able to sell it, which they would do themselves. Which would mean that their category when they're bidding on these federal bids would be separate. So the ones that I'm looking at are strictly resellers, and I know who's coming in and out. So then I would get the names of the companies, Google them, LinkedIn, find their information somewhere, one way or the other, reach out to them and say, I see you bid on this item here, this proposal. You didn't win. What do you say I cut your cost and I give you the same thing, better quality at X amount? And obviously I'm more than likely am able to beat 90% of the pricings that they're getting. So then they would say, well, okay, then let's give it a shot. I send the samples in, they test this stuff out, and then boom, love the product, and it's a customer.
I love that. So these are companies, Burak, that are going to bid for, let's say, these federal contracts. They don't win the bid. And like you said, maybe their supplier is China or whoever, some Vietnam, whatever country it is. And then you reach out to them and they're like, hey, why not use us as a supplier instead of them? And then they fall in love with your product and that's your way in.
Pretty much. I mean, you beat the quality and the price. That's, I would say, 99% of the reason why a company wouldn't win the bid.
Sure.
I mean, so, and yeah, that's how we acquired the initial, 5-10 clients. And once they started winning and our product was more widely known or common, I should say, it was people then recognized the brand and they would just reach out to us, and that's how we went about it.
That's a great strategy. You always hear about all this cheap labor in Asian countries, but I guess, from Turkey, that wasn't really affecting you as far as price, and you were able to beat the price and even provide them a much better quality product.
Yeah. So with Turkey, with respect to the goods, it wasn't so much the labor cost, but it's more of the material cost. Turkey is one of the biggest manufacturers of SMS fabric in the world. I would say top 2. So when the material is cheap, right, then the end product obviously is going to reflect that, and that's going to be cheap as well. But the quality remains the same, where the price drops because there are less people involved. So I'll give you an example. We sold our gowns to the UK, and they ended up in the US, okay, at about 3 to 4 times, 3.5 times more than what we sold it for. Why? I mean, there's one reseller, then he has to make money to the next guy, and then the next guy does it too. So everybody has to make something for it to make sense. So as they add more and more, the prices go up. So when I called somebody and said, well, I get Med Depot gowns already, I said, oh, that's interesting, because we're the only sellers in the US, right? So we don't give any kind of, sort of a distributor here in the US. We are the distributors here. So he says, well, I have a contact in the UK that got me Med Depot gowns. I said, well, that's interesting, So then obviously the conversation leads on, and then the story comes out, and I say, well, it's your lucky day. We're going to save you a lot of money here. So that was it. That's how we kind of, grew from there.
I like that. Now, I'm assuming, again, for urban boxing, the growth, like you said, it's a lot of word of mouth. People love it. And then you're opening multiple locations and the community gets behind each location, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So community aspect of it with our gym in particular is incredible. Our members love to be a part of urban boxing because of what it stands for, what it does. And it's just a very close-knit community that's so welcoming that we get pretty much, 4 or 5 prospects a day, and they're just, all in, from the get-go, because they make friends. It's, they go out, we have outings of our own, where we celebrate and we watch fights together, UFC fights or boxing matches or whatever it may be. We have, cookouts. We have, we really focus on that a lot. I think it's important in the sense that, though it helps with the retention in those days that you're not so into working out and you want to just kind of, you're tired from whatever you've done, and but then that thing kicks in. You say, you have your friends there, and if you don't show up, you might get reprimanded, whatever it may be. In that group of circle of friends, you tend to show up there, and that helps. You push each other, you learn, you get better, and you train on your own, and it not only does it help the trade itself, but it's actually fun. It's more fun when you do it in a group setting, at least for me. I've always been that, you know, in a group environment when we train. So I just personally love that. And I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yes, definitely. With same construction, it's so different compared to Med Depot or even urban boxing. And I understand the majority, over 85% or so, are residential customers and clients. Uh, is it a lot of word of mouth there in the construction side, Burak, or how has that grown?
Yeah, word of mouth, you know, what we call referrals are great. We also have our neighborhood response team, where we get a call on, let's say, for example, let's talk about roofing, right? So if we get an alert saying that there's a major storm hitting this area, we then deploy our neighborhood response team to that neighborhood and you know, start letting people know that we're here for them. If they need anything, we're, you know, fully capable of what, you know, of any kind of repairs. And then, you know, once we're working on one house, obviously the same storm hit the next house over. And typically when a developer comes in and builds a neighborhood, all the houses are just the same year. So your roof is going to essentially, you know, be about the same age. Of course, you get people who replace their roofs already, but the ones that are old, you know, we go and say, hey, you know, we're already in the neighborhood. If you want, we'll give you a free inspection and let you know how your roof looks as opposed to your neighbor's. And then if they give us the go ahead, and, you know, we hop on there and see what the damage may be and then speak to the homeowner afterwards. And that way, you know, we kind of go from there. And that's, you know, it's not a random selection of houses where we want to work on as far as the roof is concerned. It's, you know, kind of where it's needed. In this case, you know, storms, that's what we follow.
Sure. So the stores comes and then people go out there and would start knocking on the neighborhood and see if they have a need.
Well, we start in a neighborhood once we're in there working on a house,
Sure.
You know, because we want to be able to tell them we're not just randomly knocking on your door. We're working on your neighbor here who has seen damage that we can attribute to this latest storm. So that's why we're here. You know, there's got to be a reason why people, you know, you go out knocking people's doors, you know, so.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I think maybe a year ago or two, I'm in a planned community, and then all of a sudden in my block, several blocks, you see all these roofs coming up. And I'm like, am I missing something here? And it's mostly one or two roofing company. And I speak to my neighbor across the street, right across the street from my house. I'm like, what's going on? And he was like, well, supposedly there was a storm. I don't know what happened, but it was more of an insurance play. So he was like, hey, they came to me, they got on the roof, they told me my deductible was, I don't know, a couple hundred or thousands, and I have a brand new roof. And so a lot of our neighborhood, maybe less than 2 years ago, went through that cycle. It just brings that memory up.
Yeah, no, that's exactly sort of what we do. We do specialize, I mean, not necessarily our focus is that, but we do have, as far as the roof is concerned, we do have insurance specialists on board where we help our clients throughout the claim. We handle it for them. You know, we're there every step of the way, from inspecting the roof to the turning kind of a end product. And because most people don't know about roofs or what, you know, what it is and how it to be fixed and what's the proper way of doing it, we tend to be one-on-one with the insurance company to make sure that they get the best product out there and that they don't get shorted. And believe it or not, insurance, as much as we'd like to think they're on our side, they are, in fact, yes, they are in a sense, but they're also not. They're a company that they're in the business of making money too. And the way to make money is to keep your costs low and, you know, maximize on the amount of clients that you have. So they collect a bunch of premiums, when it comes to sort of fixing what needs to be fixed, they try take the shortcut out and kind of get it done as cheaply as possible. But that's not always the right way to do it.
I agree there. I've seen many cases that sometimes people have to bring an insurance adjuster or claim adjuster to sort of fight on their behalf from the insurance companies.
Yeah, we have insurance adjusters that we know, and if need be, we when the homeowner asks us if we have any suggestions, we give them a list of people that we know are well qualified to do this. So they fight on their behalf. But before it gets to that, we tend to be okay with, we know a lot of the insurance companies and the adjusters in the area anyway. So we work well with the insurance company directly. And so typically public adjusters take a good chunk of the settlement, which homeowner doesn't want always. So they don't work for free either.
Yeah. Burak, having several companies here, I'm sure surrounding yourself with the right team members, having them in the right roles is very, very important. How do you go about doing that? Like, where do you find them, or what do you do with all the different companies that you're running?
So yeah, the team is everything. No matter what you do, if you're a bigger company, you're most likely not one man show here, right? So the team is what's going to carry you through the finish line. And when it was boxing, it was, for me, people that I know and I've trained with and I've seen in action. And as far as the construction is concerned, these are the people that I've worked with in order to build out my gyms. So I knew those crews, and then people that I know just being around. Med Depot, you get a good bid prepare for documentation and stuff like that. And that's just, again, people that you just come around and meet throughout the years. So essentially, it's very important. I don't have a particular way of sort of finding people that we need for different businesses. I don't just go online and find the right person. It's kind of trial and error in most cases, and it's just you start with the people that and then go from there. In my opinion, that's what's worked for me, at least.
Sure. How does your day-to-day look like? I'm sure every day is different, but are you going to a location every so often? Are you on construction sites or with the Med Depot, or?
It varies. It varies a lot. Usually I make my rounds in the gym, go to different locations and make sure that's good. And then we have, obviously, as you know, our office for Saint Construction, and our other office is in Med Depot. So we have, it's I don't want to say self-running right now, but it's close to that point where people have responsibilities. They know what they're doing, and they handle it. And it gets to me when there's a major concern.
Sure. Is most of your focus sort of in one particular one over the other, or right now?
No, not necessarily. They're just, it's just different. Construction requires more day-to-day interaction. Okay. Boxing gyms, now that we have an established system and we've been around for 6 years, they have managers and other staff that's running that, and it only then becomes an administrative issues if it ever arises. And so I have a partner, Derek Davison, for the gyms, and then he steps in, most of the time. He's able to do everything there on the back end, and for me, I do the operational side. And when there's a problem there, I step in and take care of it. But for the and then you got your Med Depot side, where the biggest problem that may arise is your manufacturing and your logistics. Manufacturing team is obviously, they've been in the business for 60 years. That's my father. They handle their business. Logistically, things definitely do go wrong, and you know, we step in to fix it. But that's also going to be, you have your logistics team taking care of that. So, your import and export agents, and you've got, your trucking crew, you got, whatever it is that you need at the delivery site, and that sort of thing. So essentially, that's good. Now, saying construction is something that needs to be, sort of day-to-day business operations, because of where we are right now. We have major projects, and for that, anything can go wrong at a job site. I mean, almost every single time, things don't go as planned. And so, well, I guess, what's that, Murphy's Law? What could go wrong will go wrong. It tends to happen in construction, because there are just so many moving parts. So, but that's what makes it most fun. And that's where we actually shine, because of our experience and what our guys are capable of doing. And so that's how I kind of, dedicate my time. Not necessarily a set amount of time for each, because it's always evolving. It's a kind of a fluid, idea of, when to delegate time to what. So, yeah.
What would you say drives and motivates you now?
Well, I just love what I do. I just, it doesn't feel like work to me. That's what's so motivating. I want to be able to do something that doesn't feel like, I would never want to dread going to work. Right. And that's one thing I don't, that's why I never started on, corporate world when I graduated. I never wanted a 9 to 5. And that was it. So for me, it was, it's that, my drive, it comes from loving what I do. I love building things. I love, helping people with, repairs and remodels. And when a finished product is delivered, I'd love to see their faces. Same goes with boxing, urban boxing. I love when people, give us reviews and say, this is a huge accomplishment for me. This has worked for me. They tell us how much they love it and how appreciative they are of the community and things. And, obviously Med Depot, the biggest drive for me was to be able to help people during the pandemic. And we've supplied, millions of gowns to what was most needed then. When we had shut down borders and we couldn't get anything from China, there was only 3 other countries in the world that did what we did. That was India, Mexico, and Turkey. And we were one of them, and we delivered. And I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, how it doesn't get any better than that. How satisfying is it to be able to provide medical equipment at the height of the pandemic? I mean, you're literally saving lives. This is, that was the most, rewarding moment for me. And it's just that, really. I mean, being, when you think about it, it's very versatile. It may look like I'm kind of all over the place, but there's kind of a reason for everything.
No, not at all. I actually like that because, some people stay in one lane, and as a human being, you have different interests too, or things you want to explore and look at, and why not? I think you should. Now that you mentioned the pandemic, I'm curious to hear, Burak, how has it affected? I'm sure with Med Depot, I don't know, I could be wrong, it probably boomed as far as business, and the construction side. I know right now a lot of the supplies has also increased, but I'm sure there's also been an increase in demand there as well. But I'm sure the gym is a little different. So how has COVID affected all businesses?
So we were shut down for the most part. for the gyms. We were shut down for the most part, so we didn't do much. But yes, on the other side, Med Depot was booming, and that's when we basically catapulted into government contracts and everything else at the size that we've been doing, because our daily capacity of production is 700,000 gowns, per day. So we're the top manufacturers of medical gowns in Turkey. So, with that being said, we were able to sort of, people see the quality of the products, and then hear how fast we can get it to them. That was definitely, a good thing to have in the arsenal, so that we could, do well. And we did really well. And then finally, the construction side, believe it or not, people wanted to do more renovations and remodelings than any other time that I've witnessed. So people were probably just at home and say, you know what, I don't like the way this looks anymore. I just, get rid of it. So construction did well too. And even after pandemic, we're still where we are, where, obviously during the pandemic, we were deemed essential business. So we were able to conduct our business and do work. But yeah, it wasn't a huge setback for us in any way, except, for the gyms that were obviously shut down for a certain amount of time. But we were prepared for that as well. And we're able to now grow from it, and we're opening the 4th location.
Yeah, that's great. Having several successful businesses, what advice, Brock, would you give to someone if they just, let's say they wanted to start off any type of business? What are some few pointers you would give that person?
Well, anytime. Okay, so that's a good question. What we'll do is, what I would recommend is this. For anyone who's looking to start a business, don't be intimidated. Don't overthink it. Do your due diligence, and don't overstretch yourself. It's great to have goals, but not ambitious goals, right? I mean, keep them simple. Keep it to the basics, right? And basics will get you a long way. I use that in wrestling. I use that in boxing. I use that in construction. I use it in all the businesses I've started. Okay. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. It will happen by itself. And the most important thing I'll say is this: focus on the product, right? So focus on the service or the product. Make sure that is your main focus, and that is what the best you can offer, right? Do the best you can there, and the rest will follow. If money is your motivation, you will lose. If you are too ambitious and you don't plan well ahead, and something happens, you will lose. I mean, most businesses don't survive because of that. And so, it's, put a business plan together. Even if it's a few pages, it doesn't have to be a 60-page, professionally done business plan, but have a plan and follow through with it. Don't be intimidated, and things will happen as long as you provide a good service. People will come.
That's great. What are some habits or skills that have helped shape you throughout your career, whether on personally or on the business side?
Well, I would say, I could probably put that in one word and say discipline, right? Stay disciplined. Whether you are disciplined in sports or your daily life, or discipline in any sort of way, apply that. Apply everything that you learn to the things that you're going to be doing. Discipline is the key. Consistency, obviously, which comes from the discipline, is very important, I've found. And that's what I would say. Having a sports background is very helpful, because essentially you have to be disciplined to do any kind of a sport, really. And that's one thing I would say is, start kids early in sports, keep them disciplined, and they'll do good. They'll be just fine.
I like that. What would you say is your biggest challenge right now with your role today?
Say that one more time.
Your biggest challenge with your role? Does anything come to mind? I know you have several companies, but as far as any challenges that you're working on right now?
So I guess the biggest challenge in sort of the executive level managing is going to be managing people, right? So that tends to be the most challenging part. You know, it's a skill that needs to be had with if you want to run a company. You have to be able to run a team. You have to be able to manage not only your own time and your duties, but others as well. You have to carry your teammates when the time comes, and they have to do the same for you. Obviously, we all have off days, but yeah, carrying your team and managing is the key.
Are you doing anything differently? I don't know if you have maybe a HR role or something like that to help you with that challenge.
Well, yeah. So we don't have an HR department in any of the businesses, but that's certainly a big thing. I mean, having an HR team to sort of look at things and making sure that the employees are okay and that that everything is in order. That's extremely important. Yeah.
What do you know now, Burak, that you wish you would have known at the start of your business career?
It's interesting. That's a good question. What do I know now that I wish I had known when I first started? I don't know. I don't know if I have anything that I look back and say I wish I had done that, because I don't know. I mean, everything has worked out so far. So
Yeah, everything led you to where you are today.
yeah, everything got to me where got me where I need to be.
Real quick, I know you mentioned poker, and I don't know why that just came to mind to me right now. I'm sure there were some lessons playing poker that you sort of applied in the business world, right?
Yeah, poker is a very thinking man's game. Really, I mean, it's poker has a lot of attributes that you can apply to the real world. It is, you get to meet different people. You are spending a lot of time on the table with the same people. You're observing. You're just picking up things and tendencies, and you're doing a lot of the you're retaining all that information, and it's important because you can then you learn how to deal with people, right? And so if you're in the service business, whether you're in a restaurant or boxing gym, right, you're dealing with people day in and day out. So it was very I mean, it was very valuable to learn how to deal with people, and poker certainly helped with that, as it is one of the major components of poker, is to be able to read people, get reads and tells and whatever it may be.
Sure.
So
A lot of benefits there. Coming to an end here soon, what does division look like? What does the next 5 years or so look like for the companies?
well, that's a very interesting question. But here's what and I've never done this, and this is a different approach, and it may not sit well with many people, but I don't do 5-year plan or a 10-year plan or have a vision there, because I think that everything we do is so fluid that you have to take it day by day. Yes, it's good to have a plan, but so many things change along the way that you may end up nowhere near where you want to be in 5 years. So I really don't put too much time or effort into planning what I'll do in 2 years. I have shorter term goals, right? I have monthly goals. I have 3-month goals, right? That's quarterly goals. And then I have a year goal. And I don't really go over a year, because to me, it's like predicting the weather from 2 weeks before. It could change, and so that's my approach to it. So I'm afraid I can't answer that question.
It reminds me of business plans, and it's great. Business plans are great. I mean, I see them all the time, and it's good to have them. Of course, there's value in them, but the business plan is not going to predict. A lot of things in the business plans that happen in real life business are not there.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
very true because things change. I mean, there's so many moving factors and so many things that can happen, and it's really, really difficult to sort of plan all that out. And so, I tend to use my time elsewhere.
Yeah, that's good. Brock, when you're not busy running all these three organizations, what do you like to do in your free time?
I like working out. I like going on walks with the family. You know, I have a year and a half year old daughter, as I mentioned. So we go to places, and you know, I for the most part, I spend my time with the family. You know, we just do things. You know, go out, activities, whatever it may be.
Sure. Now, no boxing for her, right?
Well, she can do whatever she wants. Really, I wouldn't say do one thing or the other. I would like for her to play sports, but you know, it's whatever she likes doing. Really, I mean, everybody's different. I don't want to, you know, sort of implement, you know, a certain set of things to, you know, to her, or even if I have, you know, more in the future, I just kind of, I would like for them to be involved in sports, that's for sure. But hey, whatever they can excel at, that's what I'm going to support.
Sure, whatever they're like. And no, I was just saying because I know your father didn't want you to get into it. So I was wondering if you were going to do the similar approach or a little different. It didn't work out for him.
I saw that. Yeah. I mean, so no, I mean, if she likes it, she can do it. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
at least be able to train her where she can do it in a safe manner.
Yeah, that's good. There you go. She has plenty of locations to do so.
That's correct.
Yeah. So Barak, if the audience wants to learn more about you and all the different companies, where can they go to find out more information?
So stgc.com is our construction, MedDepotUSA.com for our medical devices, equipment, and urbanboxingdc.com for our boxing gyms. So, and they can find out more about me personally if they want to get on LinkedIn. So that would be it.
Barak, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me out. Always a pleasure.
All right, take care, my friend.
Take care. Have a good one.
You too.